You need to lose that respect for the chains that are holding you down.
Before you can be their therapist, you first have to seek therapy, understand, and be very aware.
If I'm gonna be talking to you for a long time, I need to understand your language. Hi everybody, welcome back to season 2 of Mind Your Wellness MYW family. We are so excited to be back this season, and you are in for an exciting ride. It's just gonna be us 3 this season. It's not just gonna be me and Obel. If you haven't already, I am encouraging you to go back and watch last season. We had 6 amazing guests. You need to go back and watch and binge watch so you can leave space to watch the conversation that's gonna happen this season. So I am Patricia Desert, and we are here with Obel Pluvios, and we have in our building today, we have Dr. Belizer, who's going to be with us throughout this whole season, bringing you some very helpful tips and conversation that we think that's going to benefit our culture. So Obel.
Oh my God, what a great intro. I'm so excited. And just because my voices sound like this, don't worry, I'll talk, okay?
You're fine. It sounds good.
But I'm so excited to be back. And as Patricia mentioned, we have the great Dr. Belizer with us in the house.
I don't know about great, but we'll just.
Oh no, accept it. Okay.
Yes.
We love your company, and we're in for great conversations this season, and we're excited to start this episode off.
Yeah.
And before we start, I want to tell everybody Happy New Year, because we're releasing this soon. So Happy New Year to everyone. And this conversation, I'm really excited.
Yes.
I'm really excited for it, because I think it's going to be setting the precedent for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Because I think we're focusing on healing. Right? Healing our traumas, and how we can benefit from, just learning from each other and experiences, and, just pushing forward to be better humans for our next generation.
Exactly.
But before we start, I like to play little games, okay? So we're going to ask you guys a couple questions, but I don't know if you guys want to introduce yourselves. Dr. Biddy's there. Would you want to introduce
ladies
yourself?
First, right?
Oh, ladies, they know me.
They know all of us. Maybe you can tell us, you just say hi to the people.
Well, thank you, Obel. Thank you, Patricia. It's a pleasure to be here. I am happy that we are able to be here to do this, because it's very needed. For those who don't know me, I'm Dr. J.C. Belizer. I am a licensed psychotherapist here in the state of Florida. I'm also a board-certified addiction professional here in the state of Florida. So my mission is to fight against psychological slavery. I've dedicated my career toward this mission, and I suspect I will continue to do that for the next 65 years.
Amen.
I love that.
Yes.
You don't even look a day like past 30.
It's a pleasure to be here.
No, it's going to be up to 100. Yep.
Well, it's really great to have you, and I think having you here is going to be really essential for us to have those conversations that we're going to have. Before we start, we are Haitian, okay, for those of you who don't know, and I would ask you guys a question, because this one's been sitting in my heart. I actually want to share it. Out of all the Haitian remedies, okay, that you guys, we grew up on, which one is your favorite, and do you think it actually works? I'll start first, because I swear by Teosmasi. Okay.
You stole my thing.
No,
you can't do that. No.
Wow. Isn't that the one that's man? Like
It's
Bigger. It's
oh my God. No.
You can't, but you can't do that.
I remember I was just going back, because I was really young. I was probably like 8 years old, or probably 9 years old. I can't recall exactly what happened, but I just remember I was not able to urinate Odyssey. And my great aunt, she passed away just recently. I forgot what the Nadejma, and she made it a teasasi. And all I can remember, I drank that day just one task. just 1 cup of tea associate, and boom,
Wow.
I think within 30 minutes.
Wow.
Peeing,
Wow.
because I think I probably had some type of infection or something going on. I just could not.
When you were little?
Yeah, when I was little. Like, I still, this is some processed trauma.
Hey,
No, but this is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
This
it
is
was really good.
good.
Like, it's still engraved in my memory. Like, she just made me some tea associate, and I remember I was crying. I just couldn't go. And
Oh
she
my
could tell.
God.
Like, I was very distraught. Like, she made me that tea associate within about 30 minutes. Boom, boom. Went to the bathroom as if nothing happened.
Wow. While you talk, I used to love tea when I was little. Because my grandmother had a garden, so it was just like pulling it from outside and wash it and boil it. And we used to have tea basilic.
yes.
Wait, I never heard of that.
Yeah.
Basilic. Yeah, I think is it the one that they call basil?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
basil?
Is it? No,
it's
no, it's not
basilic.
basil.
I don't
no,
know.
no, 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 no.
I don't
It's
know
not
the
basil.
English.
It's
I
not
know
ba-
basilic, but I don't know the English version of it. Yeah.
It's larger than basil. Basil is small. It's large. It's like tea basilic. I used to like tea cannelle. And they had citronelle too. Oh my
Citronelle is-
God.
Citronelle. I know
is-
citronelle.
That's you bougie.
I would just drink it with bread, like you have fresh bread and I don't know. We're talking about remedies, so that was just like my supper. So remedy, I can swear by red onion and honey. I always do it at my house whenever the cold season is coming. That's the first thing that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut onion, put honey and lemon in it, and then just keep it there for everybody. I just drink it like that because it tastes good anyway. So that's the only thing that I can think about. What about you, Dr. Belize?
I agree with you. The associate. That's I remember as we were growing up in Haiti, it's a tradition. My grandma, every morning, the first thing that you have to do, you have to drink tea associate before you eat, put anything else in your body. So tea associate, I think it works. And I've heard of the Armoise, the COVID-19. There were a lot of Haitians who basically said that Armoise was very, very good. As a matter of fact, the United Nations came out and acknowledged Haiti as one of the countries that did well with COVID-19.
I heard
Despite
that
the
thing.
fact that we don't have the technology, we don't have the medical resources that they claim they have. So there's something that we're doing that's right.
Yes,
That's all I know.
I agree.
And for those of you who don't know what it is, I have to pull it up to tell the people what exactly, because people are like, what tea associate? What are you talking about? Or Haitian people know what it is.
Yeah.
But I guess associate
OCT, I'm this is AI guys, so just bear with me. Also known as Cerasee tea is a bush tea made from the leaves of the bitter melon plant. It's used in the Caribbean communities to treat a variety of ailment, including high blood pressure, diabetes, and constipation. And it's, some of the benefits are antimicrobial and antiviral, antioxidant reach, may help with blood sugar, may help with intestinal health, and so forth, detoxing, all of the good stuff
Everything.
that they
It's
tell
good
you.
for everything.
Masculine tea is good for.
Yeah. That's very good stuff. Good stuff.
So
Yeah,
just so you guys
masculine
know.
tea.
And it is basil tea for your tea.
I don't know if it's a remedy, but I used to enjoy it.
When you said basilic, it is basil
Is
tea.
it basil?
It is
So it's
basil.
a different kind of basil because our basil, my basilic did not look anything like the basil that we have
but
here.
when I
it
looked
was
it up,
larger.
it says basil.
Okay.
Yeah, it says basil tea.
All
So,
right. Well,
Well, with that, well, today our conversation is going to be a good one because, as we all know, language is something that is, something that's needed to communicate, and it's a tool that we use. But we also know that it has its power to influence the way that we see ourselves and the way that we see other people around us in the world. And we know that it can impact us in many ways. If you have, positive language, it can impact you with your emotional well-being. Also, if you have a destructive language, it can also impact you negatively and increase stress and all. And so forth. My question for you guys is, how can we now use language to heal? And before we do that, can we define what, language
healing
actually
language,
is?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Language is obviously a mode of communication. It could be verbal, obviously nonverbal as well. But I suspect the what you're referring to is the culture of of a language that is detrimental to the growth of our of the next generation, of the people that we interact with. I agree with you that we need to start looking at how to use that type of language to uplift as opposed to put people
Using it
down.
to-
And I think that's language, like we said, is basically a mode of communication. It could be verbal or nonverbal. That's basically how I would look at it.
Yeah, I think in our culture we need to start unlearning how to speak. I mean, I don't know if I say it right, if the sentence makes sense, but I feel like generally we do not know how to uplift other in positive language. We always revert to negative language. We think that in our mind we already believe that we respond faster to negative language. We make jokes about it. I remember seeing a video on social media where the comedian was playing like it was supposed to be a motivational speaking in the background like, hey foot, tu leve piau, ou zombie, ou tu stupid. Est-ce qu'on est moun ki parle boli like almost like saying like, okay, you are stupid. Do you think like you're gonna graduate by just sleeping in your bed? Like it was all of those negative things. And as I was listening to it and I look at the likes, it was a lot. And everybody was just laughing. They're like, oh, that sounds like my grandmother. That sounds like my mom. And everybody was commenting. It was like a consensus that we all agree this is happening in our home. And I felt I felt disturbed by the video and how we were just happy about it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, this is the kind of language that actually destroy our new generation, that are destroying us.
Why do you
know?
think why do you think there's so much comfort and why is violence so
comforted?
Yeah.
Well,
Why
I mean-
is someone cursing at you and showing you and demonstrating pure violence in their language so comforting to us, or comfortable, I should say, to our society as a whole?
Well, I think we cannot just look at words in isolation. It's very important for us to look at language, speech, culture, and all the interactions that involve when I'm communicating a message to you. What you need to understand historically as Black folks, obviously everybody understand the history of slavery that we had. I know some folks don't want to talk about it, but since when do I listen to people telling me what to talk about? We have to.
That's why you're here.
We have to look at the idea that we learn by watching. Coming from the time of slavery, we were not nice to one another. The language that we use was violent language. We did not trust one another. I was afraid of my fellow Negro. So in my mind, you were an enemy. Therefore, if I'm speaking to an enemy, I need to speak to you in language that you understand that I'm in business. Now, what happens? You might say, well, you are no longer in slavery. True. But guess what? We learn, like I said, by watching.
Yeah.
I have a child today. The child see the way I interact with my wife. When I become a husband, I'm going to interact the same way.
Yeah.
The child understand that when I'm trying to get him to do things the way I speak to him, then I normalize the process of that process, and he knows this is how I speak to my child as well.
things
Then he
done.
passes it from one generation to another. That's the reason why I talked about breaking the cycle of psychological slavery. We need to break that cycle. There's another thing before I let you go. When I speak to you, I speak to you so you can understand.
Right.
When you speak to me, we're communicating so we can understand. If I realize that I speak to you in one tone of voice that you don't respond, and you just don't respond to that type of language. I say, hey, can you please pass me this water? And you don't respond to it. Now I need to find a way to use a language that you're gonna respond.
Yeah.
If I realize that every time I'm nice, you don't respond, and then every time I speak loud and be very animalistic, you respond to it, then it becomes part of my behavior.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have to wonder, why is it that so many African countries, when I talk about African countries, Haiti included,
right.
when the leaders need to do something, the people have to burn up
Take
the
the
tires, take the street, because the only language that they understand is that of violence. So now I have an option. Is it I sit here, you don't understand what I'm saying to you, or I use the only language that I know you are going to understand. So it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah. So, but this is why it's important. I like that you give the illustration of parent with their children, because this is how you're going to break the cycle. Because there is no, when I look at Haiti, I look at our country, I mean, we've been burning stuff for like decades. It's just so hard to say that you're going to change the mentality of the people and things like that. So all I can do is focus on my home, and sometimes I do revert to yelling. As you were saying that, I'm thinking about the time where I called my daughter first time, and then she looked at me, and then I said, J. Chloe.
Of course. That's why all yelling is not violent. That's why all yelling is not violent. That's the reason why I'm not going to sit here waiting for what psychologists to tell me that, if I raise my voice talking to my son, all of a sudden it's a problem. It's relationship. It's relationship. It's language. It's speech. It's all those things. I know the relationship that I have with my son.
Exactly.
And I am a human being as well.
And the second thing that I retain from that too is any response is a response. Like, even if I don't pass you the bottle of water, but I react to you, it's still a response to your violence. So I know it works. So I get your attention, because the main purpose of conversation, of language, communication, is that I get your attention, so you can pay attention to me when I'm talking to you. So even if what you asked me for, you said, can you please give me that bottle of water? I ignore you. But when I yell at you, and you even if you don't pass me the water, but you look at me and say, don't talk to me like that, that's a response.
Right.
So I'm getting somewhere with you.
Yes.
And I think we've been normalizing the extreme part of that, where we are using language that we have no. When I was little, I had a cousin of the family, because we all have them in our family. You have that one person who's just responsible for you, get us ready for school and all these things. And the way that she used to get us to the bathroom is to say that she's gonna break our legs. Like, if you don't come here right now, I'm gonna break a leg. I'm gonna break your arm. Patricia, get here right now. And when I think of those things, we laugh about them. But I'm like,
But to what extent can we be comfortable? Because I know you mentioned relationship, right? Where, you yell at the person. It's like, hey, I just need you to right now. Like, you just need to pay attention to me. But to what extent can this be normalized, where we can make the distinctiveness between, violent and just, like normal conversation, or just a relationship that you have? So how can we differentiate the two? Or also too, you can find people that they feel more comfortable responding to that kind of violent communication, but does it make it okay? And how can we kind of break that cycle in our homes? Because now what's going to happen is, because that's how this person responds, it's going to propel you to always communicate that way, right?
It's a problem.
So how do we revert that?
I think
and unlearn.
Communication is the key. You need to bring it to their consciousness, because after a period of time, they're conditioned to respond to the violence. They go like, oh, he doesn't mean business. He's not yelling yet. So what?
Give it a few minutes.
They're conditioned. So just give them time.
Yeah.
So communication, listen, I talked to you respectfully. You didn't respond. Now I'm yelling. Why would you respond to the yelling? Is that how you want to be talked to? I would like for you to respond to it the first time I said it. If you don't understand, tell me that you don't understand. We need to communicate our intentions. We need to be able to tell them what we observe and bring it to their consciousness. Because subconsciously, they're already conditioned to wait for the loud voice to respond. So you bring it to their consciousness. I see that you only respond when I talk to you in a nasty way. That's not how you want to be. Education. Remember the miseducation of the Negro, Dr. G. Carter Woodson.
right.
So we need to re-educate the Negro. By doing that, we're going to deconstruct
the
whatever
slavery mentality.
ways that were placed into their head, and then reconstruct. So it's a deconstruction, reconstruction method. So hey, only slaves respond to that type of violence. You are not a slave. You're a free man. I want you to condition yourself to respond to it when I call you sweetheart. And this thing carries even in our romantic relationship. I'm too thuggish. I'm too thuggish
don't talk like that.
I'm too thuggish to tell my girl that I love you. I cannot show love and emotions. Because if I do that, I'm gonna show that I'm soft. So the black man must be re-educated into what toughness is.
Yes.
So do you see what I'm talking about here? Is the re-education of the Negroes.
There needs to be a class on language.
Yeah.
You know?
I think so.
And I also think too, we are lacking that vulnerability, household, especially Caribbean household. Like when you say like, we need to have a communication where I said, hey, I talked to you that way you did. Like, can we be serious? How often are we going to have that conversation where I'm like, I talked to you that way, you didn't respond. Why do you respond only when I yell at you? And that's the piece we are missing, because we don't have that conversation where I'm like, I actually don't like yelling at you, but you only respond when I yell at you. That part, that's the part that we are lacking in our family, I feel, in our culture. They're like, I'm not going to talk to you. This is what happened. This is what happened, and even with parent and children too, like I'm the adult.
Sadly, we do lack some emotional intelligence in those aspects. And also, speaking of parents, you can only give what you have, right? And sometimes what it is, after doing something for 30 plus years, your great-grandparents did it for 50 plus years, and it's passed down genetically, or your behavior, you're watching what they've been doing, it's going to be hard for you to communicate like, well, you need to stop, right? That's where the healing process and having emotional awareness to know, hey, there is a problem. How do I fix that?
This episode is brought to you by Safe Souls Inc. Safe Souls Inc. is an organization dedicated to helping Afro-Caribbean immigrants find stability, success, and community. Moving to a new country is tough, and many in our community struggle with trauma, cultural barriers, and finding the right resources. Safe Souls is changing that by their mental health directory, connecting immigrants with culturally competent therapists, and even covering the first 6 sessions. They also run a 3-day mental health program in Haitian Creole, teaching mental health awareness, job readiness, and how to navigate life in the U.S., also how to locate their local resources. From breaking the stigma around therapy to helping newcomers build a future, Safe Souls is doing great life-changing work. Want to learn more? Visit safesoulsinc.org or reach out to info@safesoulsinc.org to get involved.
And speaking of relationship, there is nonverbal violence. I don't know if you guys heard of that. And I know that on a study, Psychology Today, it highlights how prolonged silence in relationship can lead to emotional withdrawal and is often perceived as a form of nonverbal aggression.
Of course.
How can we, because some people can say, well, I'm not going to talk to you because I don't want to say something to be aggressive, right? I don't want to be violent. That's why I'm just not going to talk. How can you see that as problematic?
Well, go back to what we were saying. How can a relationship progress if there's no communication? How can you grow?
No, we can't.
Then what happens when there's silence? Remember when we started here, there's silence, I become afraid of you. You become afraid of me. I start making assumption about you. You start making assumption about me. Then we have World War III.
Everybody's living in isolation.
Then we have World War III. It could be the parents versus the kids, or the husband, the wife, whatever it is. So there was a reason why, when I keep on going back to to slavery, because I don't think you can speak of the Negro experience without going back there. There's a reason why they keep us away from one another. They remove your language once they pick you up, remove your religion, remove any topics of communication. Because we can sit here, we don't have any topic of communication. What are we going to talk about? The only topic is the plantation. So it's the folks who did the slavery thing. They're not idiots. They knew what they were doing. They were psychologists. As a matter of fact, they made it very clear. Give them the body, but we'll keep the mind.
And so therefore we become psychologically enslaved.
Was it like the boy who said, like, you can carve a door, like you can, even if you open the door, the Negro will still stay inside or something like that.
You remember Harriet Tubman? Harriet Tubman has to actually pull a gun on these Negroes to get them out of slavery.
To free them.
Because here's what happened. It's very difficult to break you away from chains that you respect. I'm breaking those chains. You say, Doc, I love this chain so much. I respect them. Don't break them. Keep them safe. I don't want to break them. You need to lose that respect for the chains that are holding you down.
I love that you say, okay, this is a line, okay? You need to lose the respect that you have for the chains. And I was thinking of something along the line where you need, like, that respect is going to start with knowing your identity and your roots and observing what's happening in your family, actually, that you need to break for yourself. Because I think we can't say that we're going to break cycle by just looking at our situation. We need to go back and be like, this has been a pattern. Like, my mom yells, or let's not say yelling, but my parents are violent, and my great grandfather was violent, and they're all using that language. And I have to come to that self-awareness to be like, if I need to break this, and I can find myself automatically resorting to violence even when I don't want to. So I need to start learning, saying that if I see that in my family, how do I break this for myself? What should I do to break this for myself? And I can take example of my grandmother. My grandmother, her communication, even though she was passive aggressive most time, you won't feel it. One thing that oh my goodness,
put you in your place in the most classy.
And you'll feel the sting 5 minutes after. 5 minutes after. But one thing that I've never seen her raise her voice or yell or get into like a big argument with people. And sometimes I do find myself get into that space, and I'm like, this is that one thing that she has. And I feel like I actually want that. I mean, there are a lot of other things. The fact that, she was the head of the household and everything, we don't have to go there, but I always I want that piece that she had. The ability to look at somebody who's insulting you. And I've seen it done, because there was a person who was at our house, and the guy was like, well, sometimes when people want to wash their mouth, and in Creole it sounds worse. La bouche moun yo sale, yo besoin laver dan yo, c'est souvent yo lave parce qu'on rete la caillou. And mind you, she was just giving that person a room to stay, like no pay, nothing. The her only request was she's like, I have a household full of women. Please do not shower naked in the backyard.
Hey, man. You can't do that.
And she keeps saying it over, and the guy was so insulted that she would keep asking him. You don't know how people think. And I remember, and I was little, and I can still go. I keep going back to that space. I see my grandmother. She's sitting on the table. She's looking at him, and he's saying his whole thing, and he was adding more stuff, and my grandmother was just sitting down looking at him. And then when he's done, he was like, "Oh, okay, ou fini? Like, are you done?" And then he's like, "We fini bagay m'ajoute encore." And then he moves, and she did not say any word to him. And the next day, I'm waiting. I'm like, is he gonna come and eat at the table? And my grandmother just put his food on the table.
Wow.
And it was like, mais c'est comme ça, oui? Like, she didn't say anything. She didn't say okay. But I think what she meant was, moun bouche sale yo ka bo manger encore. But she didn't say that. The fact that she had the patience to wait for next day to give a response to what he said. And the fact that he had to take the food from her. Like
That's
the
a lot
person
of
you just insulted.
self-restraint.
Now that person is gonna feed you.
Yeah.
You know? And then she said, "C'est comme ça, oui." And that was the conversation. And I'm like, I'm like, God, please, I want that piece of her. You know?
Yeah.
To just look at somebody in the eye, insulting me, and I know I'm just gonna wait for the perfect time.
That
You
takes
know?
a lot of restraint. And that kind of also brings me to my next question. Do you guys think positive language, has the power alone to actually kind of, stop this
Cycle.
the cycle?
I mean, I think it's a multi-dimensional approach. I don't think it's just being positive language and you be
Yeah.
just be a loser and everything else that you do. And then I think I talk about a culture. We need to create a culture of positive experience, meaning that not only is the language positive, but let's see if the interactions at all level can be positive as well. Let's see if we can create a way to expose you to certain things that bring the ego, that strengthen the ego, like Freud would say, or that bring the self-esteem where it needs to be. It's not that you can never be anything, or we need to stop with that type of language. I need to remind you, you are a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
Now, the source of language does make a difference as well. Who's saying what makes a difference?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then being Africans, we need to understand the way language is used in all of those African countries. We use opposite to express the definition of something. I say, girl, you a bad girl. Look at you. That means you're good.
Yeah.
It's the source.
Yeah.
Even the B word.
Depends on who's saying
different.
It's different.
Do you see what I'm saying?
But is it?
It's different because it's not registered the same way
same
for
way.
the person that's receiving it. It's the registration that we need to look at. How did I register this word that was spoken to me? Was it a traumatic registration, or did I see it as a term of endearment?
You know what? That actually goes back to slavery. When I know
There's
we talk
nothing
about
I
this
say
a
that's
lot.
not connected to slavery.
Yeah, we all because I remember when the masters used to have to, basically purchase or actually get one of the slaves, and the mother of that child would basically talk down on the child. Oh yeah, he can't read. Oh yeah, he's weak. Just so that she could distract him or remove the value of that child, so she doesn't get taken away.
Yes.
So
I would still do that.
Yes.
And so I feel like a lot of our Haitian parents now, probably just generations, have passed that language down, where it's like, oh, stupid, even though they say it in a very mean way, but I think it's just stuck with us, where it's like, maybe if I do that, do you feel like that's their way of trying to motivate?
That's what we do. But here's the problem with that. It worked, obviously.
It does to some extent.
That's what I'm coming. I say
It worked.
Here's the problem. When you have a child that was born here in America, that is growing up understanding language within the American paradigm, understanding motivation within the American paradigm, they always want to hear that I love you. They always want to hear that, girl, you look good. Your hair looks nice. Okay, you have this child that's growing up within this paradigm. Now you come with the Haitian mindset. Now this girl that's growing up in that American paradigm, register that within the American way of thinking. This is abuse. And she takes it as abuse, and it is abuse because within the paradigm that she's functioning, it is understood and accepted as abuse.
As abuse.
Yep.
And
Even trauma works the same way.
That is. Yeah.
Trauma
Wait, can we talk about bullying?
Yes.
literally where I was gonna go. Because I'm like, in Haiti, we make fun of a lot of
Let me
people.
tell you,
We use those nicknames to
times.
just literally just make fun and poke us about. But here in America, it's considered bullying. And people say, well, Americans are soft. I mean, that's what some of us say because of that concept or mindset that, well, we're just poking or we're just making fun. Even comedians would go as far as saying that. The
idea that you'll be called by your disability.
Yes,
exactly.
Let me tell you,
Like
we
they
had
used to call me tikut kut. short because I'm short.
Yes.
Like shorty.
We went to a Haitian high school, one of the worst high school in the nation, Miami Edison. At the time, it was one of the worst high schools.
Sorry, Floridians or
He was one of the,
Miamians,
at the
whatever.
time, he was one of the worst high school in the nation. Let's be real, okay? We had a guy, we call him Master Nose.
Master nose.
Because he had a big nose.
nose.
And then we just embrace it, Master Nose or whatever. That's it, you know, it's just what it is.
Yeah.
He understood it. It was part of boys being boys.
Boys being boys.
Okay, but we need to understand the context
The context. Yeah, that's
of
true.
the person of where the person is operating.
Yeah.
One thing that means we need to understand what things mean to the person receiving it.
Yes.
Okay.
That part.
Let me give you an example. I remember when my daughter was about 3 years old. She had a little blanket. She was very attached to the blanket. Everywhere she goes, she will keep that blanket. One time we were taking her to daycare, and I got at the gate, you know, she was crying that I don't have the blanket. I don't have the blanket. And crying. And I'm thinking, it's a darn blanket. I don't care. I kept going. And then as I get under the light, I was convicted. I said, if it was your cell phone that you missed, that you forgot to pick up your cell phone, would you go get it? Then I understand that blanket has equal value
To her.
to this girl that the cell phone has to me. Then I made a U-turn and went and get that blanket. So we need to understand what that item, what those words mean to the individual that is receiving it. And it could vary from one child to another in the same household.
That's
that is true.
That is true.
Oh my
Same
God.
goes for relationship.
Yeah.
Relationships, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that piece. And that's the purpose of all communication is that you understand me, like you said from the beginning. So if I'm gonna be talking to you for a long time, I need to understand your language. And I know we have a lot of focus now on love language, act of service and all these things, but no, we actually need to understand each other's language. What kind of things do you respond to, or are you offended by, or what kind of things are traumatic for you? And because there are certain things that are trigger for somebody who's been through a certain type of trauma.
Exactly.
Like you may make a joke with somebody and it's just a joke, but with me, it's like a big trigger because of my experience. So we need to understand those, I guess those variation when we communicate with people. So I think too, we can kind of just say, if you want to heal as a culture, not only we need to understand each other, but we also need to start adding to our vocabulary too.
I think it's John Maxwell that says, seek to understand before seeking to be understood. I think we need to abide by this philosophy. Instead of trying to get everybody to understand us, seek to understand the people that we are dealing with.
Exactly. So when someone tells you, please don't speak to me like that, understand that they mean it.
They mean it.
I can walk up to you and say good morning, and if you say you insulted, then I need to stop saying good morning.
Stop saying good morning. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And trying to if I'm your therapist, I guess, or if I owe you that, then I'm trying to understand what is the connection between you and good morning that leads you to that place.
Exactly. So before you can be their therapist, you first have to seek therapy, understand and be very aware of why it's a trigger, because a lot of people don't want you to say it, but they don't understand why. You know, so they don't actually they can't connect the traumatic experiences that's making them respond that way.
Yes.
So I think it's just really looking within ourselves and doing the work and analyzing, why am I responding the way that I'm responding.
Yeah, I also think we should add another piece, like address a fear of rejection in terms of like starting a conversation that you feel uncomfortable starting to. Because one piece that is missing is that we're not going back to the person and say, why you're not understanding that, or why did that hurt you, or how can I be better? We don't want to be that vulnerable with our people, even the people who are closest to you. I feel like as Haitian, in our culture in general, we get uncomfortable with closeness. We get uncomfortable with people being vulnerable. Even when people are crying in front of us, sometimes you want to tell them, you kind of just like, stop it for a little bit. You kind of just want to rush them through their process of explaining their pain to you. Because we are uncomfortable with their pain. And that's also because we are uncomfortable with our own pain. So I think we need to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable a little bit.
Yeah.
If we want to heal as a culture, or even if you want to change the culture within your family, since this is what you have power over, you know, because that's the only way I feel that we can kind of just bring a change that will pass on to the next generation.
I love that. I love that. So before we wrap this, I'm sorry for that.
No, there's something that you mentioned. I want to go back to it real quickly. You talk about your grandma, and you talk about looking at a pattern. For me to look at a pattern, I need those who were there to tell me, hey, your mom suffered with that.
There you go.
Your auntie had that as well. I see you're the third generation. But if I'm not communicating with that individual, I don't know that.
Exactly.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's a reason why that you cut that line.
Yeah.
So there's a movement nowadays that, our folks feel like, I know too much to communicate to someone who does not have a PhD. My mom does not have this. I'm not talking to her. They speak Creole. I speak English. That's them Haitians. I don't talk to them. So what you need to understand is that you're missing someone that's been observing the flow of the game to tell you, this is what I see. And then you're going to end up making the same mistake because you did not get coaching from that person who was there. That's what Africa, that's what they do in Africa.
Circle of story.
You have the people, you have someone who's been in that neighborhood. Okay, a griot, by the way, they call it a griot. There's a system of griot. It's like a someone in the neighborhood. They like the encyclopedia. They know everything.
They know everything.
They know everything.
The elder
story about
everything.
They know everything. They can tell you who married who and who did what and whatever, what happened, who stole what. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's how we talk about the last name. Then the rest moun sa yo son se rest moun voleur yo pa rentre la dan. That prevent. You see how much prevention is that?
Yeah.
How that can prevent you from a lot of stuff that you have in your marriage.
Yeah, that is true.
Yes. So our disconnection to our roots actually is
lead to your destruction.
And that's
why
they had to separate us.
Exactly.
Slavery.
That is it.
It's intentional. It's intentional.
You need to know your story.
It's intentional.
And also, that's how you break those.
Yes.
You need to know what it is that you're breaking.
Yes.
Not just the surface thing, because sometimes the things that you think you're dealing with is just the surface.
It's just the surface.
Yes.
You need to know the roots, what's going on with your family, what's been happening. And it's not like, because, there is that thing too for when we come in the US, especially as immigrant. You kind of it's what you just said. We have that separation with our people. And sometimes it's not even through condescension, like we don't want to talk to them. It naturally happens that you're disconnected to that part of the family.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
And also too, for some people too, they couldn't kind of disconnect because of their trauma. Let's not forget.
True.
Depending on how much trauma you've endured and your,
there's a lot of reasons.
Exactly. So now for somebody that says, well, I don't really have family because I had to disassociate myself from the pain of having to relive every single thing and staying in that same cycle. Or because sometimes in order for you to heal, you do have to disassociate yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
You do have to put yourself apart, and work on that. But the most important thing is knowing, I guess learning about at least find ways to learn somebody to kind of give you the stories.
Find a person, find an auntie, an uncle or somebody who's just like somebody in the family to tell you something. Because we did not have psychologists, we did not have psychiatrists back then. And I bet you those people, they live fully. Because they used to live long life. Like those marriages were like 60, 70 years together, and their parents put them together because the parents did the research.
We didn't have psychologists as understood by European way of thinking.
Well, that's true.
We didn't have therapy. But when you have a bunch of Haitians get under the mango tree, they're playing dominoes and talking about that's free association, like Sigmund Freud will call it. So we didn't have it as defined by the Euro-American paradigm.
That's true.
But we have been talking to, we have therapy. Ourselves.
Beautiful.
I love
beautiful.
that.
To end this, I want to just ask this brief question, because I know we didn't really touch much on self-destruction or negative self-talk. because we are often violent to ourselves. That's why we end up being violent to others. Most of the time, people are usually violent to themselves because they perceive themselves a certain way, so they start projecting that to other people. What advice can we give someone that's dealing with that? Because we know obviously negative self-talk can lead to a lot of anxiety, depression, and so many suicidal thoughts and things like that. What is some advice that we can leave with our audience to kind of help them navigate that and find a way to heal through that?
They always talk about how you are what you eat. And thoughts, ideas are food to your mind. If I'm feeding myself a lot of negative self-talk, then there's no question that I'm going to be reflective of what I eat. So I want to encourage everyone, feed yourself healthy thoughts. If you're going to produce negative things, you have the same capability of producing positive things as well. It's just that the negative side has been on overdrive for a long period of time, and you have yet to activate this positive side. So begin the process of feeding yourself. Man, I look good. Dress nice. I smell good. Do those things. If you have the money, get yourself that nice car if that's what you like. Begin to look at yourself as a temple. Nothing impure goes in that temple. And you begin to rediscover that inner power and the endless possibilities that you have as a human being.
I love that.
I mean, the Bible says it. Your body is a temple.
Of God. Yeah. For me, I think I would say, and I think writing things down, journaling, seeing it also helps, because I know we learn different. Everybody learns differently. Some people learn with audio and visual, visual kinesthetic learner, whatever it is. Practicing it, and also writing it down. For me, I think I found that helpful for me, because I know I'm very critical of myself at times. And what I find help is that, okay, I write down, okay, these are the good things that you have. These are the qualities that you have. So you can do this, you can accomplish this, things like that. So I think also writing it down and seeing it every day, it kind of like reminds you, that this is who you are.
Yeah. I would say stop respecting the chain, like Dr. Belize said.
Yeah.
And start growing, nurture your self-respect and set those boundaries. Observe the patterns that's happening around you in your community. It doesn't have to be your family. And start nurturing the self-respect. Like you say, seeing yourself as a temple, but I would take it even further. Like, what are the things that I'm going to set as my standard for moving forward? The things that I feel like I respect myself too much for this conversation. Like, I respect myself too much for that environment. Like, I respect myself too much to stay here and listen to the rest of this conversation. Like, I feel like once we start putting those boundaries, but you're not putting it because you want to get back at somebody, you put it because you respect yourself too much.
And also what you're feeding your mind is what's going to, I guess, influence your thoughts.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, that is well said. Thank you guys. That was amazing.
I know. I love the conversation.
Thank you.
I think this was such a very impactful. It's going to be an impactful episode. For those of you who watch this episode, don't forget to also share it with someone, because if you're keeping it to yourself, you're not helping your community. So we thank you in advance for all your support. Make sure you like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also we appreciate everything that you're going to do to heal. we want to say thank you.
Thank you for healing yourself.
Thank you for healing yourself by watching this and taking the step. That's a step, right?
That is a step.
Because the more you're feeding yourself the good information, the better it is for you. So I want to thank Patricia and Dr. Belize for being there, and we'll see you guys soon. And thank you to all our sponsors. Guys, bye. See you next time.